Hello, everyone. Welcome to OZ Voices. I'm Anna Copperud. I am with ozvoices.com, where we talk about all things opportunity zones, rural, urban, suburban, and industrial. We're very happy to have you with us today. We are very pleased to have Dan Kowalski with us. We're going to start with introductions right away. He has a lot to cover with his background. We're going to dive straight in. Great to have you here, Dan. Please give us an introduction.
Thank you, Anna. It's my pleasure to be here. So I've been involved in the Opportunity Zone space really since the beginning. I worked for the Secretary of the Treasury starting in February 2017 and was with him for his entire 4 years in office. So I worked with the Secretary on the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which included 1400Z of the tax code, which established opportunity zones. So after the legislation was signed by the president in December 2016, I raised my hand to, or 2017, when I raised my hand to work on opportunity zones because I felt it was an incentive that was responsive to our promise to try and promote economic growth to every corner of the United States and forgotten communities. And I felt that without someone with fairly senior in the agency to be a champion for it, it might be something that fell to the wayside. So I was there. That's how I got involved in opportunity zones. Currently, I am a consultant to in the opportunity zone space for funds or individuals, and I'm an advisor to Easy Do It as well as Redivider Blockchain.
Very good. Great to hear. Absolutely. I remember working with Dan back when I was also in the administration. We would see each other at meetings, and Dan was at the table presenting on the details and developments as they were being rolled out throughout the duration of the administration. So I was there firsthand and very excited every time all of us would get together at these administration-wide meetings. And we would walk through the developments, and everyone was there talking about the developments, and it was just very exciting to see it grow and develop. So weaving all that together, we had a conference down at Liberty University last week. Dan Kowalski was on one of those panels, and we discussed government policy. We discussed opportunity zones on 3 distinct panels, and we're going to walk through all 3 of them. Dan was there observing and participating. Great to have him there. Let's start with that first panel. That was the Deal Talk panel. Funds from all over the country up there observing, making observations on their work in this space, exchanging ideas. Would love some feedback from you, with especially your background and what you saw that day.
Oh, well, I was impressed by the broad spectrum of opportunity zone projects that are currently underway. You know, when you're working on it from the technical side, which is where I spent really most of my time in Treasury, and it was in the formulative stages. Now we're looking a couple of years later, and it's great to see, you know, housing, which we would expect that. But in addition, you look at cutting edge technology. We had the speaker who talked about the robotic assistant for surgeons, as well as indoor agriculture for the fellow who was growing indoor hops that might also lead to some medical uses of that plant. And you know, all of those creative uses of opportunity zone capital, it was just really great to see, and I think inspirational for those who are thinking about what they might want to do with opportunity zones, to be able to hear people doing these really cutting edge things through opportunity zones that might not have been able to happen otherwise.
I agree to have the lineup of everyone exchanging in real time what they were doing. I completely agree. I felt the room, the energy there, orienting around that, and it felt accessible. Look at what everyone's doing, and we're talking about it. That was a very valuable one, especially that it came first. I appreciated that much later on, that was a good way to start off. You know, we had CEOs from all over the country, some of whom were very well versed in opportunity zones and actively engaged, some of whom were also brand new to it. So that was really nice to show real world results in motion. And then we moved to our next panel, which followed that immediately, which was an open Q&A. And we just opened the floor and anyone could ask anything that came to mind. So how did that feel for you? What did you see? Would love to hear it.
Well, following up on what you just said, I think that in that panel, you could really see people exploring ideas that they had with the experts on the panel right there. So people saw the possibilities in the first panel, thought about things while they were experiencing what others were doing, and then asked questions in the Q&A that really enabled them to see whether or not what they were thinking was actually something that fit well with the opportunity zone space, or whether it was something that maybe was not quite right. But what was great about the second panel is the back and forth to try and work through how someone might solve difficulties, or how they might break through roadblocks that they're having in trying to think about how to use opportunity zone incentive. It was, I think, a very instructive panel for everyone, including me to some degree.
Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite moments of that panel was when we had a Q&A going back and forth. A gentleman on the panel gave an answer, someone else riffed on it, and you yourself, also in the room, just raised your hand and wove in the expertise that you brought. Oh, it was my favorite moment because it was just so natural, and one team, one fight, and no one at that moment knew who you were yet. So of course I announced, do you know who that is? And it was a really nice way to bring all of the strength and energy that built into this program and build it into our room that day too. It was truly my favorite moment of that panel.
And I wasn't sure whether to do that or not, to be honest with you. But I also felt I knew exactly what the answer was, and what I felt I was able to do was to simplify it a little bit and make it such that the person who was asking the question would get it. I had to interject myself. So.
It was excellent. I loved it. And then when we moved from that one, the very next day, we had the big panel. All three were very important, of course. We had the government officials, to include yourself. I was on that panel as well. Others in the administration and other experts, weaving together our perspectives that we had from the beginning working up until now. So I definitely wanted to turn that over to you. What information felt right for you to share that day, and why?
Well, I wanted to make sure people were paying attention to the benefits that folks were receiving from opportunity zones. You have to track the positive benefits that opportunity zones are providing to the community. We had a number of people who were excited about what they were doing, and they were doing good, positive things. But the reality of the legislative situation right now is, after the end of 2026, you won't be able to take newly realized gains and invest them in opportunity zones. Now, there is legislation out there to change that, to extend it for a couple of years, and hopefully that will become law. But evaluating the impact of opportunity zones is something that was very top of mind to Congress. Pre-COVID, there were a number of discussions about legislation in order to put reporting requirements on opportunity zones. COVID knocked that off track. Congress was instead occupied with the public health crisis and, ensuring continued economic growth, shoring up the economy, and that was an appropriate thing. But as practitioners in the opportunity zone space, I think we need to remember that conversation and really do what we can in order to track what we're doing in terms of jobs, employment, improvements in housing in the communities, environmental improvements, the things and the other growth that occurred because of the opportunity zone investment, other investments that might have taken place because of synergies that were created and things like that. Because ultimately, we're going to have to provide Congress with additional information about what has happened as a result of opportunity zones when we petition Congress to extend the program. And I think that it's really important for fund sponsors to, and anyone who's involved in the ecosystem, to really take note and document what you're doing to improve the state that you came in on, because that's going to be really important. And I felt that with so many people who were active and wanting to be active, that it was a good time for me to make that pitch to them, that it's really important, because it took decades for the disinvestment to occur in these communities, and it's going to take longer than the end of 2026 for sufficient capital to be put into those communities so that they can kind of get the jump start that they need to be sustainable in their own right. And that's going to be incumbent on us who are working in the field to try and make sure that that story is told and known. We shouldn't really be hiding our light under a basket. We really want to make sure that we share the good that Opportunity Zones is doing, and I felt it was important to give that group that perspective.
Very interesting. Weaving that piece into, it's kind of a final thoughts on the conference, but really what I'm looking at is the future of Opportunity Zones. That was important for you to put on that panel that day. Do we extend that as we extend it out and keep sharing that with others? What vision do you have for Opportunity Zones? And then, of course, we cannot wait to have this conversation with you again, but cannot anticipate further. What's next for us?
Well, I think what we need to do now is to continue doing what we're doing, continue to start Opportunity Zone projects. I think the education component that, Easy Do It and OZ Voices, the work that you're doing, Anna, and conferences like the Lynchburg Conference and others that come up, those are all very important in spreading the word on Opportunity Zones. I think the incentive is still in its infancy, and we're really just starting to unlock all the things that we can do in the Opportunity Zone space. I think the conference showed many good examples of that, and I think that what's for us to do right now is to go out in the field and use it, and try and do good works in the community, and try to promote economic growth in these areas, do things to help make those pockets a more vibrant, better place, and continue to work the legislative process to make sure that what's being done is known, and if enhancements are needed, I'm not so sure that they are right now, but if enhancements are needed, to make sure that legislatively that's known, or trying to work through the regulatory process if there are other things that seem to be binding and trying to get deals done. I think that's what's left for us to do right now, is to just go out there and use it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. As we move forward, we cannot wait to have you back here, all of us in the Opportunity Zone ecosystem. Me speaking for this show, cannot wait to sit down again and talk about the next developments in Opportunity Zones, bringing all these projects together, all the energy together, and the stories that need to be told. We will pick this up again in the future as time permits. We are so grateful for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Anna. My pleasure to be here.